Welcome back to the Bitcoin Zodiac. Today, I have the absolute pleasure of interviewing Monika Bravo. She is a multidisciplinary artist. She's an evolutionary astrologer and also a polymath. So she has an incredible life story, which we're really going to get into on this episode. Monika, welcome to the Bitcoin Zodiac.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here. I'm so thrilled to be able to talk to you and to your viewers, listeners. Thank you.
I know. I'm really excited about this episode. I think we're going to get into some really juicy stuff. So why don't we kind of start at the beginning? Who are you? Where are you from? And what is your background a little bit?
Okay, so I was born 60 years ago in Bogota, Colombia, in South America, and I lived there until I was 18 or something like that. Moved away to Europe. I was there 8 years. I would say that my 20s were the bumpiest time in my life because I very fortunate to have a mother that allowed me to kind of find myself. And I drove her crazy. But anyway, so I I lived in 4 different countries in Europe. And I was, every time that I thought that I found it, I would call and say, Mom, I need more money and I need to move to another city. And she was like, okay, I hope that by 30, you know, a little bit more. But she was always very yielding in that sense. And it gave me the opportunity. I lived in Paris, I lived in Rome, I lived in Athens, and I lived in London. And by being able to learn these languages, I actually learned them when I was little. My worldview kind of opened up, and I was so hungry and thirsty for knowledge that I knew that the only way I can get that knowledge was through experience. So I think that those 8 years in my life were fundamentally something that I'm coming back to, because if I hadn't had that experience of openness, I wouldn't have been so open to the person that I am right now. So, but there's a moment that I kind of miss Colombia. Like I'm a little bit like, I'm not sure if I want to stay in Europe. I have the Greek boyfriend, the English boyfriend, like, you know, we start like rolling around and bumping here. And then at one point, I'm about to be 27, 28, and I go back to Colombia because I miss dancing salsa and I miss my mountains. Like I start missing where I come from that I really love. And I stayed there 4 years. I was practicing as a photographer because what I studied was fashion design and photography. I wanted to always study something that it was, and it's interesting because I have done a lot of thought about it, something that it was like a métier, like something that I know how to do with my hands, or I can actually have, it's a skill. I didn't want to go to academia. I love reading, but I didn't want to go to school to keep on reading. I can do my reading without a professor telling me that this is better than that, or been reader all my life. So I thought maybe I'm much better off if I learn like a trade, something that I actually like, and I can make my own clothes or make a design of this, or even photography. So I actually was very happy with the kind of education that I got, because it was very down to earth. It was very material in a way. It's like not so much stuff here, which is also very important to why I am doing what I'm doing right now, because I was not programmed because of that. I was actually hands-on. So I go back to Colombia and I have the practice of photography and I start teaching, and I'm kind of like, I gave myself a couple of years to figure it out. And at one point, I mean, it's a long story, but there was a boyfriend involved. There's always a boyfriend involved. I ended up leaving.
Always a boyfriend.
Yeah, but running away from the broken heart. So, and he, I mean, this person is a friend right now, but he was a very well-known artist. We were born the same day, the same year, which, you know, talking about astrology, he was just like a few hours before. So we had a very similar path, but differently. And I think that when I met him, we both met, and it was very impactful to see yourself in other. So it was this beautiful moment that when he was talking to me and I was like, oh, don't talk to me, you're so young, because he's very young looking. And he was like, oh my God, you're so arrogant. I'm from 1964. I'm like, oh yeah, well, April, blah, blah, blah. And I give my date and he's like, shocked. But we're born the same day. I'm like, no, show me your passport. And then when we recognized that, it was like we fell in love. I don't know if we fell in love with the date or whatever. I mean, it was very, I mean, I liked him, obviously. He was very attractive and he was very attracted to me. So we had a very intense relationship where now that I think about it, I was seeing my potential in him and he was seeing his. So the relationship didn't last that long in terms of like being together. But what it led me was like, I started traveling with him. He was already a well-known artist. And he always told me, these people don't know that I don't know anything. Monica, you can make anything up. And I was, really? And he was like, just watch me. He showed me this possibility that, you know, if you want something, you can do it. I'm not saying that he was a phony, but what I'm saying is like a lot of the people in the art world are phonies. So he's going to be playing the game. And very smart person. He's no longer part of that realm because I think that at one point he realized that he was faking it too much. And so he went and moved up. But he opened up the doors for me. So when I moved to New York, I had a very good friends that I met with him. So I arrived to a place where I'm kind of connected. But there was this thing, I arrived 1994. Yesterday, September 18 was my 30th anniversary. But I arrived with the strategy that I want to stay. I want to be legal. I'll have, if I have to go back to school, I'll do it for a little bit. And I'm going to probably these people who I have met, they will be supporting me. But I remember people saying, what do you want to do? What are you good at? And I said, I don't know. When I know, I'll call you. Because I didn't want to use like networking for, I mean, what am I going to, I want to be able to, but so I never really ended up like using them, but I did by being like a fly on the wall. I will go to many parties and things, and I just observe how the art world works. And it was like same thing that he was telling me. It's like, this is a place full of shit. So I said, okay, I do like making art. I concentrated on art making. I did find galleries and stuff like that. But from the very beginning, galleries didn't like to deal with me because I had too many questions. So why are you getting such a cut? Are you going to produce my work? So can I have an advance? How are you going to pay me? Can we sign a contract? Is this a commission thing? Like, why are you giving a percentage out of my cut? So I always been connected to money in the world, and but they didn't like it. I mean, some people were like very uncomfortable. And after a few years, they're saying, I think you're better off working with somebody else. So I already started doubting about the middleman. Like, do we really need them? Because what they say is that you need them because otherwise you cannot be. And I was like, that's not true. I'll probably need more time for me to be pushy and go and say, hey, I want this. So, but I did do the whole thing for 27 years. Last 10 years, I was like the 2010s onwards, it was New York. I think it became in the world, like this thing about fake it till you make it. So I started really seeing very clearly that there were very few people in the world that were authentic. People were just making a post. Instagram didn't help at all. People are like, you know, making the best post. Then you will see them behaving in a way and portraying themselves. And I just don't want to become like that. And so I started doing a lot of inner search and I had already started meditating since 2003. I had quit alcohol. Like I did, okay, I'm going to do this. So I think that the meditation practice and all that helped me to actually see myself in a different view.
Right.
I was still in the program of like, you know, selling art, whatever. But at one point, somebody wanted to buy my art in a different way. It says, I want to commission you. So I didn't know. I knew, you know, big artists from the past, like Da Vinci or Michelangelo, whatever, they were commissioned. But I always thought, oh, they're going to have power over me. And I don't like that. So I did ask questions. They said, no, we're hiring you because we love what you do. So I immediately, to protect myself, I said, okay, but you have to pay me for a proposal. Like started negotiating. And that's what I learned, that I'm better off doing commission work than just working for an art market that is completely a money laundering machine, basically.
Right.
So that's, I'm talking until like 2020, when obviously, you know, scandemic happened, you know, they come with me that we're going to get all locked out. And I remember, like, I always known that the thing that I value the most is freedom. And I knew it was serious because I have friends that they were at the hospital. I was not playing and saying this is not happening, but I said, but because of the fear of others, and I don't have health insurance. I learn traditional Chinese medicine. Like I've done all the choices in my life is for me to be free from insurance, from doctors, from, you know, banks, all that, galleries. And so I thought, I know how to take care of myself. I just going to try to be in a place that is safer. So I actually meditation. I always ask something bigger than me. What should I do? And I got a prompt around May 2020 that I should leave. And I remember saying, where do we go? It says, don't worry, you're gonna go to Miami. And I bet I don't want to drive because I don't like driving that much anymore. I mean, I knew how to, but then living in New York, you're not
Don't
used
do it. Yeah.
to car insurance, parking lot, washing the car. Like, I mean, no, cleaning the car. Like, no, I don't want to do. So the prompt said to me, Miami Beach. And I was like, whoa, within 3 weeks, I was here. And that's
Wow.
when the whole world kind of opened up to me. It's like I made that decision, and then the universe said, okay, dude, you're actually doing the work. And then they show me like a different, like, when you go to the theater, you have like different parts. So this was like, and then they go, okay, you ready for the next? And then when I saw the landscape, I was like, so what happened was that I gave myself, we had the time, right? I was doing projects. I do a lot of public art. So I get the government to pay me large amount of money to have a couple of years so I can create projects that are going to end up at airports, hospitals, universities, high schools, everything that belongs to sort of like a federal or state. And so I'm contributing to society with projects that are going to be there, and not necessarily people know who they do it, which is a very different thing from the art world. The art world, everybody's trying to make a persona so they become famous.
Right.
I couldn't care less. I actually want to be of service so people can actually enjoy my work, and I don't have to be in the front. I do get, I mean, my name is somewhere in this place. So sometimes I get little Instagrams of, and my Instagram handle is not the same as my name. So if you really want to find me, it's like, but I do get people saying, I found you. Thank you so much for what you did. And those things are beautiful, but I don't have to live off, I'm not an influencer. So I don't want the like, I don't want to work for the likes. I want to be a personal person, which is like, I want to be able to inspire people to do whatever they want, like be free. So I think that because I had the possibility of like having these big projects and everybody was in lockdown, obviously Miami, we didn't even use masks. I never felt that I was like constrained. Actually, the contrary, I decided to go deeper into learning stuff. And a little bit before, I had read an article by Robert Breedlove on time. And because my work is very much related to time and space, meaning that I have always, since very little, inquire, what are we made of? I mean, is this thing real? Like, does anything else exist beyond this time? My father died when I was 8, so I wanted to know where he went. And will answer, like the nuns did not give me like a real answer. So that's when I decided to leave that school. I said to my mom, I cannot be in the school because these nuns are lying to me. And if they're lying to me with this, imagine all the things that I'm telling. I was very understood about all this manipulation. So she says, what do you want to do? And I said, can I go to, I found out that this English school, there are people from all creeds, so there's no religion. I mean, you can pray, but it's optional. And I just want to bring along many people who believe in whatever they believe, but they're not going to be defined by it. And I had that very clear when I was little, 9 years old. And so I moved to another school, and it was English. I mean, all the teachers were from England. And so they taught me a lot how to think and how to like go deeper and try to like bring the best. So I do think that there's certain kind of education and certain kind of circumstances prepare me to be the person that I am right now. Because it's not that I woke up in 2020. It's not like a coconut fell on my and I woke up. No, I've been, it's been a long time that I've been kind of
journey to there. Yeah. And so that article, and all of those, so that study of time and space, which initially started because you wanted to know where your father was, that then opened you up to receiving that article. Because not, you know what I mean? Like that article about Bitcoin and time crossing your path, if you maybe hadn't had those experiences, you wouldn't have received it in the same way.
Absolutely, because when you start inquiring, and this is one thing that I love about life, is like, and I have a very inquiring mind, like, and I think this is, and I speak for myself, I used to be a little bit more arrogant when I was little because I understood that I have an intellect that it was above average, and I don't want to sound pretentious or anything, but I knew in my school, like I asked him a lot of questions. And so that shut me down a little bit. And I said, instead of like trying to explain things to people, I'm going to use that time to go to my house and read and inquire. And I had a grandmother that every time I had a question, I will call her. She was, oh my God, like I know nothing in comparison. And I said, hey, I have a question about this. And she would tell me stories. She was a storyteller. So I have this experience since I'm little that if I want to know something, I have to actually cross the path and go like a pilgrim, like you go in a pilgrimage of knowledge. So my father, the way I actually kind of found the way, I always say because I was trying to find when he went, I found myself. I went to his books. He was also a very well-read person. He was a polyglot. He was somebody that I couldn't believe that he died at 37. He was like, I still think like, oh my God, like he was my God, obviously, he was my father. But I went to his bookshelves, and what I found was an incredible amount of material from like Carl Jung, Nietzsche, like Schopenhauer, like everything. He was questioning life. Then like hidden, there were all these like journals about UFO. So he was very interested in the metaphysics and the occult. So he was always doing that. Then he had all this Marxist stuff, and he would play chess. So I was like 9 years old, and obviously I didn't want to read Marx, but I wanted to know about this guy, Nietzsche. He said that, you know, God is dead. So, but I took his books and I found out that he will underline things. So I thought, if what he underlines, I know where he is.
Oh, wow. That's beautiful. That's so beautiful.
I get to get into his energy because he's underlying, and then he will write back. I have that thing with books, which is very annoying. Like, I mean, for me, it's not annoying, but I had an ex-husband that he was like, I don't want you to read that book first because you're going to destroy it, because I will have a conversation with the book. I was like, no, that's not true. This is my thesis. And so I had that, but I found out that that's what my father was doing. So I did find a lot of energy that comes from him that is very ancestral, that he's a very inquisitive person. So therefore it validates my inquisition, like that I want to do the same. My mom was more practical. My mom was like, you want to do something, you just do it. You don't question, you don't think about it 100 times, you just go. So she was very entrepreneurial. Father was more. So I have a little bit of both. I want to inquire, and then I just go and jump. And then I realize that I'm alone, and I go, okay, whatever, I'll just swim to the other side of the ship.
And as a side note, you as a young child were already intuitive enough to say, you know what, I'll leave the Karl Marx stuff behind, but I'll dial into the psychology. I love that. I love that.
I was like, no, this is not and that's another thing. My mom she was extremely intuitive. So I saw her making really real decisions in life in a way that it was my grandmother, somebody would come and says, that's not okay. My mom would just like, I'm going to trust my gut. Like she would say, and she will always tell me, like, there are two things she told me every day of my life. She says, Monica, your happiness depends on you. So basically she's saying that I need to be accountable. She's telling me not rely on her or anybody. And then she says, and while you're at it, enjoy every moment. So I was like, okay, so that made me think that the decisions I want to make in my life are going to be really tapping into my inner, like my heart or my intuition. If I want to invest in something, am I going to enjoy it? Yeah, okay, let's do it. So she gave me that kind of responsibility. And so I was never expecting things from her. And in that way, I don't expect anything from the government. I don't expect anything. You will never hear me never said like, I think this is so unfair. I always roll my eyes to everybody in New York. I was like, well, if you don't like it, change it.
Yeah.
Big deal. Yeah. And now I know why I was saying those things, because when you study the history of money and you study Austrian economics, and you know that the most important thing in Austrian economics is like praxeology, which is like, you know, the study of human behavior and how we can have the potential to make the best choices towards what is good for ourselves according to our needs and values. So again, it gives us the accountability and the responsibility to find that. Yeah.
And I think that we've sort of got it confused in the modern sort of world in a way. Like I'm from Australia, and so it's, you know, becoming more socialist by the day. And I also, you know, I've always been very confused in a way of my own politics, because I'm not sure whether I'm a conservative with a heart or a liberal with a brain, you know, because there needs to be a balance of both. And I think I've always recognized that there is imbalance in those areas. But I think as well, in the way that you're talking, that's actually how we build a strong society. Is it's not about trying to take away from people to try and make things equal, and not for, and then from maybe a more conservative point of view, not to try and, you know, grab everything into a very small group of people and they control everything. But it's really to empower the individual to be empowered in themselves and then contribute to to society in that way. I think it makes a very weak society in either end of the spectrum, to be honest.
And I feel right now, because I started studying, I was always like very interested in history, but because of the history of money has led me to an incredible rabbit hole of like, okay, you go to, you know, the creature of Jekyll Island, and then you go, okay, I want to know everything about Rockefeller. Oh my God, pharmaceutical, like stuff that you
Yeah.
already go through the history. And so I'm still down the rabbit hole of understanding, you know, it's not that social is bad, capital is good, because I don't like that bipolarity either, because that
Yeah.
doesn't what I'm saying. Well, there's certain things about capitalism that are really great, but there's certain things about socialism that are extremely horrible. And
Mhm.
but then the whole point for me is like, how can I educate myself to understand what are the differences? Because if I want to be eloquent and talk about it, it's not about, you know, this person bad, this person good, because this is what has become. Like society has become bipolar. And this is interesting, you know, there's this very big saying like divide and conquer. So the powers that be are going to use
Purpose.
this to
Hmm.
completely manipulate, because people are not, they're not responsible enough, because they don't know that they've been programmed. And so they don't know that they have a choice. Yesterday, I was having lunch with some friends that are like, this person is European. So, and I think Europe after the Second World War, even before, it got completely socialized. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think, you know, and I love my European friends, and I'm not diminishing by any means any of their belief system, but they have lived so much under the system that they don't know the difference, even though they live in a country that is supposed to capitalist. So they still think and talk that the thing that is missing here is like everybody has access to health care. And I say, great, who's gonna pay for that? And so I always ask my friends, is like, are you okay? Ah, but it works. And I go, of course it works, you've been paying beforehand. So I ask, what is your tax rate in Europe? And they always tell me things, oh, it's very high. And I said, so you see, what you get into the dentist is not free. You're actually paying this not only for you, but now for all the immigrants.
Yes.
And they go, but you're so heartless. And I said, it has nothing to do. It's just like you do numbers. You know, you add 2 + 2 and it's 4. You cannot say it's 7. So if you
Yeah.
want the system, you have to really get into understanding what is moving the system. But I always arrive to a point most of the times that they just don't want to hear more, because
Mhm.
they program and they don't want to inquire. So I do the same treatment, and I'm not want to insult anybody. I'm going to do the same treatment that I do with people who are narcissists. I'm not like narcissists that don't want to change.
Mm.
But you know what? I just get out of that realm, so they don't bother me. So the people who are actually want to hold on to these beliefs and they want to go vote whatever, let them be. Let them eat cake. I don't care.
Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
you and you actually have an inquiry, and I see that there's some sort of first responsibility on your side, and also curiosity to learn something new, I can detect that. And see, okay, this person is ready for me to give space. And then I could say, propose things. We can do a reading. I do study groups. Then I throw out like what I can do. Or if I cannot do anything, I said, have you read this? Have you listened to this? Have you thought
Yeah.
about it? So I'm just kind of like, you know, in human design, I have the left cross of alignment. So I'm
Mhm.
here to attract people from the outside. So I'm kind of like the bouncer in the discotheque that puts a mirror and go like, "Would you let yourself in?" You know, like I'm not telling you you're okay or not, but I'm actually reflecting as a mirror where you're supposed to be. I'm not supposed to control your choices.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's really interesting. And I probably really realized this during COVID, but I'm the kind of person that I'm open to being wrong, but I'm going to need more information. I can't just accept I'm wrong just because you said so. Right? Do you know what I mean? And now some people perceive that as being maybe stubborn or what have you, but I just I just don't process like that. I have to come to the conclusion myself, and what I realized, I think, especially during COVID, was that a lot of people, and this has probably been conditioned into people, is that they don't have confidence in their own ability to gather the information, process the information, and make their own decision. So a lot of people are wanting to, oh, well, that person's an expert in that. So I'll, whatever they say, I'll do. That person's and we've really been conned into abdicating our personal responsibility for everything, pretty much everything in our lives. And yeah, I don't think that that has anything to do with people's intelligence. I think it's pure conditioning and undermining of people's confidence in who they are and their own ability to make decisions. Do you find that too?
And I think that's why I call myself also like a polymath. This is a Greek word. It means that I am like very interested in many, poly, and mathematics is the person who's willing to learn. There's the learner, and there's the teacher, and there's the one that is listening to. So I'm always willing to go and have teachers. I really enjoy the teachers that I study with, not only my spiritual side, but more like practical, because I know that if I open up myself to inquiry, I'm going to be open to receive information that maybe is going to help me change my point of view. So the more radical I am, the less space I'm going to give. So what I think in COVID was like people were very afraid, normal. We were all very afraid because we didn't know what this thing was. And some people still don't know what it was, like for real, like they just want to believe that it was this. But they never allow themselves to open up that curiosity, because that means one thing only. When you open up to a different point of view, you actually have to change. You cannot keep on breathing the same air because you're already seeing another view. And so some people find it overwhelming to do the inner work. And I don't think a lot of people are I'm going to say something horrible, but with the astrology right now, a lot of people are meant not to get it, because we have Neptune and Saturn in Pisces, and they're going to, there's supposed to be a large group of people, like I call it the blob, that is actually not going to be able to go to the other side, because they're already programmed not to understand that they have an individuality. That's why we're seeing so much socialism right now, because this collectivism doesn't allow you to think that you can actually make a decision, because when you do that, then you feel guilty that you're not taking care of the others, because everybody's a victim. So, but this takes, and that's why I feel like right now it takes a lot of responsibility, and it takes like true knowledge about who you are, because you've done an inquiry, to be opening fields. And I think that Bitcoiners and people who are in this quest, not only with Bitcoin, but like they're doing the work, they're doing like the individuate, they have the power to go further, because they're not afraid of confronting the monsters under the bed. And once you confront them, they're not that scary, to be honest. It's like more the idea of like, I'm afraid of dealing with that. But there's an act, I've been writing a little bit about Bitcoin, for the book and everything. So I said, Bitcoin meets you where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
You have to take an action. Bitcoin is not going to save you unless you want to meet it. And then you introduce who you are into the ecosystem. And then that's what it becomes. And I think that we're getting into another layer with the Bitcoin people, that people are starting to go up. And like, for instance, that's why I'm starting to talk more about other things in the synthesis. It's not only an artist, it's also evolutionary astrology or many other subjects, because for me, Bitcoin has become like a synthesis or integration of my own self through it, potential. And so I kind of want to inspire people that there are ways of doing. I don't want people to do what I did, because that would be awful. Like, I don't want followers like that. But I say, if I can actually say something, do something, or make a drawing that it's going to open up a little bit of like curiosity in somebody else, then I've done my work. Which I do that artwork because it's very colorful and it has like people just get attracted to it. So I let them just take it away. But everything that I'm doing right now is like, if I can inspire people to look into themselves, that would be great, because that's going to be good for society, whether you're a Bitcoiner or not. Like if you're awake, it's going to be good for everybody.
Yeah. And I always say this as well. It's interesting because, you know, I was very interested in psycho-spiritual work before, like, I was ever interested in Bitcoin. Um, I mean, even from a small child, I was really interested in like the spiritual realms and things like this. But when like I started diving deeper into Bitcoin, it has a very interesting way of bringing you into psycho-spiritual work as well. Like it really does challenge you to question what you value, to question how you feel about the world, how you feel about fairness, justness, sound money, all of these kind of things. And that has taken me on a bit of a personal evolution and a shedding of another set of layers that I didn't even know I had, you know, so it's very interesting like that. And I know a lot of other Bitcoiners have had that experience too.
Yeah, what I feel is like it gives you, again, I said, it meets you where you're at, because we're a very different states of consciousness. It's not a hierarchy that I'm talking about. I'm talking about we have different kinds of perception because of our conditioning, our upbringing, our focus. And so we'll meet you where you're at. And then if you are honest with yourself and your predicament and everything, you're willing to do a little bit of the work, probably more than that, then you're going to bring forth that uniqueness that you have as a human being, and that's going to benefit the ecology of Bitcoin. So when I met Bitcoin, or Bitcoin met me, my question went from like, what can Bitcoin do for me, to what can I do for the system and the world? Because Bitcoin is actually the field of the world that I would like to have some money, so we don't keep on craziness of debasing. And it's a process. It's a process, and it's a choice. That's another thing I always tell people. It's like, this is a choice. You don't have to be a Bitcoiner, but if you are, the possibilities of you like awakening into another consciousness where actually be more free, decentralized, care for one another in a not in a guilty collective way, but actually truly be interested in the other. Go like, hi, what do you have to tell me? And then see that light on the other. I find that that's an incredible potential. I'm going to give a talk about Bitcoin being the Promethean fire. Saylor has said that Satoshi is the Prometheus and then the fire is Bitcoin. I disagree, and I'm going to do a talk about it, because I Satoshi Nakamoto, we don't know where he is, but he already crossed the realm of the humans. He's in the space of the Olympus. He's with the gods. So when you give power to a god, you don't have power yourself, because you're relying on the god to give you grace, to give you. But when you empower yourself, knowing that the fire is inside of you, then you make the choice of doing something purposefully with the fire. You can actually burn the village, which could be nice as a nice revolt, but maybe, you miss an opportunity. Or you actually use the fire to initiate something that is going to bring you forth to another place. So I do feel that there's so much potential, because for me, Bitcoin is the potential of your own enlightenment. It is the potential of your own awakening. But you have to do human action. You have to go, wow, that's why Austrian economics fits perfectly. Nobody's going to bring this figure.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to do it yourself. You really have to do it yourself. It is about personal responsibility. And so you first discovered Bitcoin through that article about time. And so that was your initial aha moment with Bitcoin. And where did you go from there?
Well, actually, I had I had listened to a good friend, 2013, 14. She's like, I'm buying a lot of Bitcoin. I don't remember what was the price. It was like, I don't even want to know, because then you just. But I was not in a good space emotionally, because I was in that moment where I started realizing that I'm completely delusion in the system. And I knew that if I liberate myself, I had to first get out of my marriage and then started planning. And we had a lot of things together, like finances and everything. So I would start thinking, how am I going to do this? So I remember she came twice. She came and she said, look into this. And I remember I looked at her and I said, I don't have the head right now. Like, like to know how it works because it sounded like magic money, but I know that there's not magic until you don't understand what it is. I mean, I don't. So I said, I'll be back. I wasn't. Then I got the divorce, and then a lot of things happened. I had my car return, like, you know, a lot of like monsters came out of the thing. So I was dealing with that. Then I had this set of assistants that they're probably by now in their early 30s, but they were quite young then. And then we was talking to this, like, and I think it was one of the first all-time high in 2017 or something like they were talking about them if they will sell the Bitcoin or not. So I remember sitting them down. I said, you only have 10 minutes to explain to me. But they explained to me, obviously, I didn't ask the right question in a way that it sounded very speculative. And one of them already sold his coins. He had several coins. And he said, well, I'm rich now. I mean, rich in comparison. And then I thought, I don't know. It didn't sound okay. So I left a bit. So that's when I kind of left it there. And so when I read Breed Love, and he's having a different approach that is very philosophical. He's talking about Buddhism, about Zen, about Pythagoras. He's like bringing a lot of the knowledge that I already know I have, and then it's opening up to Bitcoin. I go, okay. So 2020 came, and you know, we're all getting those checks here in America when they started printing ferociously. So everybody got money and government stuff like that. I remember at one point, I think a friend said to me, he was here in Miami, he goes, give me your phone. And I said, why? He goes, because we're talking about money. He says, I made a lot of money in Bitcoin in the last 3 years. And I said, how do you do that? And he goes, give me your phone. He downloaded Coinbase, one of those. And he said, how much money? I'm like, I don't know, 2,000 there. And I started seeing it grow, but then it will go down, and I will call him. And I understood that he didn't really know much. He just had gotten into a very good wave because he was just like, I think he had done even a hedge, like he basically was able to get a lot of money borrowed to go to university. And that's when I thought, powerful. You're like, you have like, instead of asking your parents for money or the bank, you're actually using your own coin. So, but then I thought, and I asked him, what happens if the price goes down and you still have to pay? And he was like, we'll figure that out then. That's what he told me. So I said, ooh, this is a little bit of a risky thing. And I want to be a little bit more solid with that. So I thought, okay, this is fun, but I don't understand. And actually money is not to be wasted. Like, I know I can make a lot, but I prefer, for instance, to give you the money because you need a project and rather like put it into an exchange. So that's when I started saying, okay, I do need to have somebody who can answer my questions because I'm very like, I'm the person in the class that has always the hand like that. And I have 2,000 questions. And so I started looking to see if there were like any classes online because I have been listening to podcasts, but they don't have the questions they don't have the answers that I have. And I didn't want to go through like 100 hours. So I basically closed my eyes and I said, okay, I'm going to find the right person that is going to teach me Bitcoin. So I'm doing something else. I belong to groups of astrology, and somebody asked me something about the planetary nodes, some incidents. Oh, hold on a second. I said, I'm in the street, but I'm going to do a search, and it should really connect you to Mark Jones. He's a great evolutionary astrologer. And so when I did the search, he appeared in a podcast that I've never heard of, a guy called Adam Summer. And I actually sent the link, and then I said, I haven't really listened to this episode. So I hear them speaking casually. And then minute 10, they're talking about Bitcoin. Because he's a Bitcoiner. So I was like, oh, wait, I had just made the wish, like, let's say 3 weeks before. So I said, Mark is showing me like evolutionary astrology, and I have a lot of those serendipities. My life is full of those things. So I said, okay, so I went online. He has a Patreon. He teaches astrology. I'm not looking for astrology, but I said, just sign up and ask him questions. So I started asking questions about Bitcoin and everything. And he would answer, but not really, because the classes were about something else. And he was running a very private, very expensive Bitcoin space. And I just didn't feel connected to his energy, to be honest. Like I didn't. Great teacher, but I need to connect at another level. But then somebody said, do you know his partner? And I said, no. He says, well, Tansy is given private classes with a small group of women. And I'm like, bingo, let's go. So I contacted her, and I took part of one cohort. I think it was like 6 months or something. I mean, it was a little bit less, but then we ended up like expanding it. And it was great. I had her with other people in the group, like answering the question. Very, very intelligent woman. She's based in England. She has done the research. She was there. They were very open more to other coins, which I at the time, everybody's like talking about crypto. So kind
Yeah.
of like through it, I was like, I don't like these other altcoins. And so I became more close. And after a while, just like left the groups and everything because they're still like trading and I just don't want to be part of that thing. But she remained a good friend. I love her very much. Hello, Tansy, if you're listening, because I'm going to give her a link. But it was very good education with her. And and after that, I said, okay, I started reading, Bitcoin standard, fiat standard, and everything. And I thought, okay, I have heard that Taifedian had an academy, but
Right.
he was just not having like a specific seminar then because he already like done one. But I read that I actually signed up for the academy. He was writing his latest book, but so I said, I'm just going to sign up. I will go to the seminars here and there. And then he said, okay, I'm ready to do the Austrian economics. And I was first person asking, probably the only woman in class. I think there are two more. Everybody's into economy. I'm like, I'm going to ask the weird question. So I've been there. So yeah, I've been reading a lot of the curriculum that he has it's a very good seminar. It's a really, like, I recommend to people. I don't think he's doing it live anymore, but it's very well documented. The bibliography is amazing. So I've been able to go even more rabbit holes, and he's always there answering the questions, which is kind of, it's a privilege, like answering questions. Very straightforward person, amazing, committed to the Bitcoin standard like no other. There's more people. He's really a great educator. And so I did that. Like I found out that, I need to know more about Bitcoin because, for instance, with Tansy, what happened was like I would read stuff on Twitter. I signed up for Twitter. I didn't even have a Twitter account. I was like, okay, we have to do the Twitter thing. So I would hear people going like, I don't know, like, if you don't have a node and are not a miner, if you don't have a miner, you're not a Bitcoiner. I think I read once.
Right.
It's Lynn Alden, and I'm like immediately in class, it's like, you have to talk about the nodes. What is it? And then she came and she did a whole presentation on nodes. So I said, I want to have a miner. So in a way, I will get the information and bring it to her, and she's a generator. So no, a generator. So I'm good as a manifestor, saying we need this, and then they respond to it. So yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. She's also one of my favorites. Lynn Alden as well. She's fantastic. And Seyfedina Musa's probably orange pilled more people. That book has probably orange pilled more people, given people an understanding of Bitcoin than anything else, I think. That's always the common thread through most people's stories is that book, including my own. So yeah, I always say that he's going straight to heaven for writing that book.
No, he's
But
amazing. He has a very big commitment. I would say that he has a deep commitment to understanding what it is, and he's also an engineer, so he knows what works and doesn't work. He's very
right.
radical, extremely radical. I like his posture and many things. We disagree in a couple. I always say I don't agree with you with this, but I always find a lot of value in his position because basically I have started thinking differently. Like, for instance, one of my first things in class is about intellectual property. Because I'm an artist, so you want to copy. And then he kind of gives me the thing, like, he gives me the spiel, this and that, and I go like that. So he gets me always thinking, and then I come back and I go, you know what, I was thinking about this, and it actually makes sense in terms of property rights because you go back to the basic of the principles of economics. It's not making it up. It's actually taking the principles that were stated and placed by the Austrian school, and he's just like using his language, bringing some other part of himself because he's a deep thinker and writer. So I think it's like such a wonderful opportunity we have right now in the world to be able to study with the most amazing people or have them accessible to have an interview, people who are actually helping shape humanity.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I value that a lot. Like I tell him, I know he gets embarrassed when I just go, I love, he's very humble, and I stopped saying good things about him, but he was born to really support the Bitcoin standard in a way and teach us if we want.
Massively. He created in 2018, when I think is when it was published. Before then, there, this is why I like narratives and storytelling, and we'll maybe get into this because I know that you are interested in this kind of like mythology as well, and why narrative is so important to human beings, why stories are so important to human beings. And when it comes to the Bitcoin narrative, like someone told me about Bitcoin like several years before that. But it was described in the way of like mining money on the internet and whatever. And this sounded kind of ridiculous to me. But when I read the Bitcoin standard, I got this structure suddenly. This, it was able to be, it was a context for me with which to understand Bitcoin. And so, I think that that's really what he did. And I think that that was really important for a lot of people that were not jumping on board with the narrative of mining money on the internet. That didn't appeal to them. But then came this structure of, as you said, shaping humanity, and how Bitcoin is playing a role in that.
Yeah, and I think that, for instance, Lynn is also an engineer, and that's really interesting because the minds that are very logical in a way, not that they cannot see the abstraction of it, but they're like already looking for patterns that they know that they work. And so they can analyze. And in the case of Saifedean, and he has also another way of like, I always laugh because I say he has like a metal tongue. He can kill one of his biggest weapons. So he actually goes in and chops what is not important and then says what he thinks is best. And again, I don't agree with everything he says, but mostly even the stuff I agree with I have been able to open up my brain a little bit and kind of try to see it from that perspective. And I have gained some different perspective about stuff that it was very fixed for me. And I speak about that very important because a lot of what's happening in the world is like people are not willing to go beyond their own comfort zone to see that probably there's another option. And when, and
or
you need
to understand why someone thinks differently to you.
Yeah.
They're not just thinking differently because they suddenly made it up one day, but they've been programmed in a certain way that is kind of clashing with our own programming. And there's probably somewhere that you can learn from both sides of those different issues, I think.
What happens sometimes is like, I did the whole evolutionary astrology, and the person who brought it to life was Jeffrey. I mean, he's still alive, but he's not active. Jeffrey Green. So he says that, we have the option because we have free will. So we think that if you want to evolve, sometimes evolution comes through a catastrophe or like a tragedy or something that is confronting you with something really deep. So human beings have the choice to either go and face it or actually say, I'm just going to run for my life. And then you start evolving instead of evolving. So evolve, we need courage. And this is really what's happening right now with the astrology. We have until January. Yesterday we had an eclipse, very strong. We have just eclipses like next one. They're going to be in the zone of Aries of Libra. And what the astrology or the energies is supporting us right now is to really find who we truly are, alone, accountable, so we can show up. Because once you show up as an individual, you're individuated, then you can actually contribute to society. But if you're showing up, or so you think, because you're just holding hands with everybody and everybody has to be nice because you were afraid like being, whatever, ostracized, then you're doing a disservice to humanity, because humanity is asking everybody to be bold, to be brave, to be courageous, to speak up. We're at the edge of being completely censored. We're at the edge of like completely being extremely manipulated. If during COVID or whatever that was, we were manipulated, the danger of now, it's 3 times more. Because understand the level of manipulation that it can have, because there's so many X amount of compliers. I hope that since then we have been awakened more. And the only way that you can awake other people, how, is like when you show up your courage and you speak up, people go like, okay, maybe I should do the same. But of course you got to be, how to say, accountable for that. You cannot just blame anybody. Same with the vaccines and everything. Like you have to make the choice. So I think that we are in this beautiful.
You have to not be looking for a political savior either. I think that that's one of the lessons that we're kind of going through. And I think it will show up I think it's too close to the election. These eclipses are too close to the election to not play some part in this revelation. I think, that we cannot be looking for a political savior, whether it's blue, whether it's red, whatever. It's not the time for that anymore.
What we have right now, if I may say, is like we had an eclipse yesterday at 27 degrees of Pisces. And Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac that is always about dissolving the journey back to source. Source is whatever you want to call the idea of God. It doesn't matter. It could be a cross, it could be a star, it could be a piece of sand. It doesn't matter. But it's this idea that we have a journey and we have a return. And sometimes people say the return is dying. It doesn't matter because it's very symbolic. Now, what is happening also that is very incredible is that Pluto, that is the planet of evolution, enter into Capricorn, which is the archetype of like institutions, authority. It ended in 2008, beginning of 2009. Hello, what happened then? Financial crisis. So it's actually finishing 16-year run through the sign of Capricorn, and it had already entered Aquarius. So we already had a glimpse in the last year and a half of like what the future could be. So we've seen a lot of way out, a lot of like more independence, people awakening more, a little bit more of chaos, because then people have to be their own person. You cannot rely on the blob. And so what is interesting is like the Pluto came back at the 1st of September, and right now it's like the last call at the bar. I'm leaving, and I won't be back for 248 years. So you guys, if you want to actually make a purge individually of your last 16 years and what that meant, and what are you symbolizing in your life as an archetype of you as a being, because this is the time for you to purge it. We have time for a little bit more. And that means everything: what you eat, how you think, how you vote, how you deal with your day-to-day. If you have that power to confront that, you are going to be blessed, because life is going to show you the new potential, because we're moving towards the 0 point of areas with Neptune and Saturn in 2026, although they're going to be meeting next year, where before we get there, there's going to be even more confusion about collectivism and individualism, because that's repeats every 36 years. And if you see it through history, we have the fall of the Berlin Wall, we have the beginning of Mao and craziness cultural revolution, we have the Bolsheviks, and we can go back in history and we see this meeting. But the potential of meeting these two planets, that one defines reality, shapes it, Saturn, with Neptune, that is actually everything but definition. We can actually start in Aries, 0 point, a new individual that is free from all the constraints that society is telling us what to do. So I don't say that this is what's going to happen, but if you feel that there's going to be a battle between the collective and yourself, then gain more insight into who you are as an individual, because that's what's going to give you the courage to move forward. If you're looking for attention or approval from your peers, that's a no. You can actually in practice, you can speak to somebody, say, hey, I'm thinking about this. I mean, I support that people do practices, but not like, don't Google, what should I do? Google's not going to tell you.
Yes. You have to look within now. Like, it's not a nicety anymore. It's a necessity. Like, it's not, it really is a necessity to do that, for sure. And I found this sort of Pluto, Aquarius, Capricorn into Aquarius. This has been a really sort of interesting, transformative time for me personally, actually, but also when we're talking in the sort of financial realms, it feels like this negotiation and this kind of tug of war between the old and the new. And it's like, the old is trying to cling to its last dying power, but really, we will be moving into this new space in Aquarius. And I think especially when it's tied to the 2008 crisis, you can see that there.
And if you see, for instance, Bitcoin chart, that is the Genesis block of January 2009, you will see that the rest chart, Bitcoin next year is at 29 degrees of Capricorn. So Pluto right now, Pluto right now is at the same degree of the progress chart. That means, and Aquarius is technology and it's the collective, that means that, and I'm sure the real potential of Bitcoin is going to expand next year tremendously, but it doesn't depend on Bitcoin. depends on the awareness that every Bitcoiner has. So that's why you have to go back in and says, have I done my work? Do I have any trauma left? Have I make amends with my life? What is it that I'm going to purge? You cannot bring forth your BS to the next level. You have to come clean. And so what is going to be required, and I do see it, I see it more and more people. That's why, for instance, probably I was able to go into the big podcast or even here to talk about things that they're like, oh no, that's woo. I don't care. I'm going to talk about it because it doesn't depend on me if it's labeled like that. It depends on the person who is uncomfortable with this kind of conversations, and that's fine, like, because I'm not. I'm there to just open up this potential. We can make such a great progress in the sense that our lives can depend more on our own goodwill rather than keep on, following this victim era of Pisces where everybody's a victim, and being a victim pays a lot of money. You always want to ask for money in a place, you tell the story, sad story goes. And then people go fund me. Oh my God, because people give money out of guilt. That's gone. The next step, if you use victimhood, you're in the wrong game. It's like you are. What is going to be very much playing is that you show your heart, you show the courage. You say, I'm going to step forward. And some people, you've seen it right now. A lot of people are having the courage to say things. Tucker, people are just saying crazy stuff, but I don't want to say that they're right or wrong, but they're just going there and willing to cancel themselves in the society because what they have to say is more important than the security. And this is very important. The security, the fake security that this society is giving you, because it's fake, it's not real.
Right. And I think it's like what we were talking about before we started recording. Like I've realized in myself over the last few years, it's really saying what I say or what I put out there or the choices that I make. It's less about the outcome. Like I don't care if nobody listens to my podcast. It's the saying it because that's aligned to what feel like I'm called to do, what I'm called to give. If other people receive that, great. It's not actually my business. That's not my part of the deal. And so what that kind of does as well, and I'm sure you felt this, is you don't need to hold back on what you're saying because you don't need to think, oh my God, someone's going to think that's woo-woo or whatever. I could care less. Take it or leave it. It's fine. I'm not here for the outcome. I'm going to say what I need to say, and I believe it will serve the people it needs to serve. And, it's much more about the integrity to the action, the aligned action, than it is about the outcome. And I think there's a lot of that going on throughout the earth. Is there a lot of people that are just saying, Efrat again is a perfect example as well, with her podcast. Is so important. I think it's such an important podcast because it's literally reminding people you have a voice, say it. It doesn't, it's not about who is agreeing with you. It's about your integrity to what you believe in and who you are. And that's so important right now.
Yeah, and she has a great way to hold space. I met her recently. We're starting to become friends, and it's just beautiful. I'm going to just see her again in El Salvador. And I like the idea, and I'm so glad that you reach out because I think that we are basically because we're open to another level of resonance. We're attracted at that level of the wavelength. We're attracting the right people. Not that the other people are wrong, but the right people to kind of continue the message in a way that is an expansion and amplification of a wave of change that we're willing to do. I always say show up, not show off, because before the culture of like fake it till you make it was I'm going to show off only this side of myself because this one I don't look good. So people never really saw who you were because you were, as you say, paying attention what other people think. This era, show up. That means be responsible, be accountable. And once you're there, people will connect or not, and that's not of your business. I'm also in human design. I'm a 6'2", which is like I'm a role model, which I hated that. Like, I don't want to role model anybody. Like that doesn't seem to be something very free. But then I realized that actually I don't have to do anything because when you're a role model, you just have to be yourself. So all I have to do is just make sure that I am myself, and then people will see me like and the things that I bring a lot, I think, into the space with the things that I do, not only with my work, is like I am fully capable of understanding what is the concept of value at all levels, not just monetary, but also at the emotional level and psychological level. I study a lot of those things. So another thing that I studied during the pandemic, and I've done a lot of practices with trauma work with Gabo Mate, and a
Yes,
lot
love
and
him.
those like Peter Levine and Bessel van der Kolk. Like there's a group of men there, very brilliant, few women as well, but they have been doing so much work for the for where we need right now. They're supporting civilization in ways that is beautiful. So I had realized that I have to do the work at all levels. So by the time I come here, I'm not going to be this preacher, but actually I'm going to be, as you say, talking about myself. And then if this connects anybody to anything at all, it will be a yay. If nobody connects, it's okay. I'm still going to do it. And I'd be grateful that you have the space. So it's not about, and this is the difference between influencer and inspirational. So if you go to the etymology of influencer, it's basically that word comes around in the Middle Age, a little bit like more the Renaissance, when astrology was and astronomy were very big, because they were same practice. You would say that the planets are influencing your behavior. That's, you had an influence, but influence is power. With that, because they say the moon doesn't have power over me if I understand the archetype of the moon, what it means. But if I let it start, then I'm just going to go and read the horoscope every day and go like, well, today I'm this, today I'm that, because that's what happens sometimes. But then I don't want to be an influencer, because I think that an influencer has power over the people, but the people have power over them because they depend on the likes, on the revenue, when you're making a living like that. And I'm not against any influencer by any means, but I'm saying, like, me personally, like influencing, no. But I'd rather be a role model that I am inspiring people that I don't know who they are, like with my artwork. I have no idea who they are. And when I say something or I do something or I create something, I'm doing it with the same kind of like commitment and love for one person or 1,000 people. Because even one person receives, the love and the care and everything that I put is actually going to be felt. But I don't want to say that if I do more likes, my work is better, because my work doesn't depend on the amount of people going to receive. That depends. It makes me very free, not depend on that. Because I saw that in the art world, like artists, a lot of people were born insecure, not only artists, but we are so codependent on what people say about the work. They're not inviting you to another show, like, oh, you didn't sell all the gallery, like, so the measurement of your success depends on outside input. And so if you're not a base person, you're going to suffer all your life. You're going to be insecure. You're going to start making what the people want. The day you start making art that people want, you're no longer an artist. You're a slave. And people don't understand that.
1,000%. And I think you also, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Efrat, actually, because I sort of have been thinking or witnessing a lot of this recently, especially in the last couple of years. And it's like every time, I witness it even myself, every time I stay quiet when I should speak and I have something to say, or every time I do something that I don't really want to do, every time I compromise myself and my authenticity, I feel like you become more and more disconnected from self. So do you think that there is a point where people become so disconnected from their essence, from the authenticity of who they are, that there's no sort of coming back from that, that they become this like avatar just wandering around, just bouncing off everybody else's opinion, almost an NPC kind of vibe?
Well, I will say that I believe in free will to a certain degree. So I don't give up the idea that they will never, like, I'm not going to say, well, you will never wake up. But waking up has a lot to do with light. And so if they're willing to put the light on something, that means become conscious about it or become aware, still they're going to have a choice. A little bit what I was saying about Jeffrey Wolf Green saying, you have a problem or this, I don't know, this thing that is bothering you, usually a trigger, something that is not happening, it's not working, something that, oh, I'm so unfortunate. I have heard people say to me, I remember not long ago, a friend of mine said, blah, 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 poor person, all these things are happening to her. And she kept on repeating, and I said, how old is this woman? She's 54. And I said, things don't happen to her. She just has to make her own life. It's a victim. So same thing with this is like, I would say, yes, everybody was programmed, but if you have a little bit of like impulse to go a little bit further and you have the impetus to look for that, the world is going to open up for you to evolve. But if you actually are in a comfort zone, and I will say that a lot of people right now, because of the Pisces thing, they are now do the work, so they are in denial because they are very much medicated or taking a lot of drug or using drugs as a way to supposedly connect to beyond, but actually they're using it as a crutch for not dealing with themselves. And I'm not against, look, people, you can smoke anything you want, you can do I don't know, all the plant medicine that you want. I'm not against any of that, but what I'm saying is like sometimes, and I have done that myself, I have used things as devices to not look at myself, to go in reality and go like, so I have a joke, it's not really a joke, but I say that right now we're like in a very big, I don't know if you read the Divine Comedy. I speak about it in my book about how Dante was a Bitcoiner and he's living through a time that is Pluto in Capricorn as well. And he's actually out with all the people who are like doing usury and like, it's interesting, but there's a moment that there's like this, they're going along the river. It's very poetic, symbolic. So they're going through the Styx River and there's a lot of souls that they're kind of like about to die. So, I say, I have my boat and I can bring along people in the boat. I can steer the boat, but everybody's going to be rowing. But if I have one drunk person in my boat that is not going to do the work, I'm going to boot it up. And that's not cruelty. That's like self-preservation. So anybody in my life that is kind of holding on to me, thinking that I'm going to give them the light, I just put them out. I'm like, you're not doing the work. Do not. And it has happened to me. So boundaries is very important. And I think for women, we have been brought up everywhere in the world to be a little bit more yielding, also because we have this yielding that is natural. So for certain people, like for instance, Chiron in Taurus or Chiron in the second house, the biggest challenge is to learn to say no in a way that you prioritize, or the person who has this condition is you prioritize your needs and your values over other people's. So when you know what is it that you need, it's a transaction. When you know what you need, you know how much to ask. You have leverage. But if I come in and say, I'll buy your house, and I said, how much is it? You go, I don't know, give me whatever, but I'll give you 2 coins of worth 10 cents. Oh, but that's not the value. Well, but you didn't tell me how much it was. So this is what happens sometimes, is that we are a little bit afraid of speaking up about what our value is. So when I train people, I do mentorships, I always talk about, we always have to start even at the beginning, do you know what your needs are? Do you know what you value? And so when you start doing that contemplation, then you can start having leverage, and then you can start relating to the values and the needs of others, and then you will become very good at that because you're not being manipulated by anybody. Like if government says, we're going to save, you're going to go like, what do you get? How much is it going to cost me? Like you start asking the real questions, and then you go like, man, numbers don't meet up. Sayonara. Oh, but this is the end of the wall. Well, not for me, because I know where I'm standing.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So what is your take on, I mean, I think that you'll be similar in this to me because even though I do an episode of the Bitcoin Zodiac every full moon and new moon, and I kind of do the astrology, financial astrology for that period, my real interest with Bitcoin and astrology are these more generational shifts.
Yes.
That's what I find very interesting. So what do you sort of see going forward for Bitcoin through the lens of like evolutionary astrology? Bitcoin for humankind, really, actually. Yeah.
Evolution astrology, one of the main things is that you can actually read a chart alone with the position of your Pluto, yourself, and the ruler of the south node, your north node, and the ruler of the so there's 6 points. Sometimes they repeat themselves. So you see already that there's a theme. So when you know what the Pluto is, you know what is the desire of the soul in this lifetime to evolve. You see it. I have Pluto in Virgo in the 8th house. That means that my inquiry, it's very, very deep. But I want to understand what is not working in society, Virgo, and I'm going to be discerning about it. So my evolution is going to be all about that. Now, I was part of that generation of Virgo and Pluto that is around 1958, give or take, in 1970, give or take. It takes a while in every sign. So my generation, in a way, I always joke and I said, don't worry, guys, we were all supposed to be white hair to really get going. Because I speak to many people of my generation, and people are starting to do and become and give back in society right now. And it has nothing to do with their banking life. It has nothing to do they becoming parents. It has nothing to do with all what society is telling you, but more a deep connection to the soul as a very humble way to serve society. Not everybody's doing it, because some people go like, I have friends in Colombia that are talking about retirement. And for me, being 16, talking about retirement is like, you want to die that soon? It's like, what are you talking about? Because I retire from life. You say, okay, I'm going to change the focus of what I'm going to do. But retirement means like unplugging. It's like, I still have another 30 years. So that's where I am right now. Now, you keep on going through the generations. So each generation, like the one before me, were the boomers, the real boomers, that they have Pluto and Leo. So these people just had a lot of fun, because Leo is all about like validating your own sense of joy. So we see the good thing and the bad thing that they did. They're quite irresponsible, or responsible for a lot of the chaos that we have right now. But I'm not just going to blame it on them. I'm just saying that was part of the evolutionary process. So Virgo go like, that's not working. Then Libra, that is 71 until 83, 83, are going like, how can we create a balance with this? And a lot of people who were born under a Pluto and Libra, they have broken families. They don't understand what balance is. So they're coming here to come into terms to what it means to be taking care of themselves through the other. Not too much of this, not so it's the balance. Now, millennials, I love the millennials, because millennials, Bitcoin wouldn't be what it is without the millennials, because they have in Scorpio. I have the same kind of thing, because my Pluto being in the 8th house is Scorpionic. So I really understand them. And many of them have Neptune in Capricorn. Depending on the year, very beginning, they have Neptune in Capricorn, but then throughout the end of the 80s, they start having Uranus, Saturn, and Neptune in Capricorn. This is an event that happens not every century. It happens every, I don't know exactly the numbers, but 300 years. So it's a very big moment. So the people, souls that were born 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, they're very special. They come here. Old. So if you see, for instance, the people who are actually moving and creating in Bitcoin, let's say just on Bitcoin, but in any other areas, they have the intensity of the Scorpion that wants to merge with the fear, whatever is not happening, and like becoming so much that what comes out is a metamorphosis. So identify, why if I want to study this, I want to know it all. So then I become the Bitcoin, or become, the potential. So I see that the generation of I would say people 83, depending on the month, 83, 84 until 96, they have this intensity, and they're going to be really bringing forth their own DNA into it. So we are going to be beneficiaries. I'm going to be beneficiary. Other people are going to be beneficiaries. Doesn't mean that they're going to do that for us. They're just going to show us that they have everything that it takes. They're very courageous people. Now, because they were born on the edge where like they were all coming out of school or college when the 2008 happened, they got very disillusioned. So if this generation has not made peace with the disillusionment, they're disempowered. But if they already started taking steps in order to say, well, okay, it was messed up, so what can I do? Which is a lot of, then I can create a new paradigm. But if I'm still waiting and yelling that the government should give me this, what power there? So in evolutionary astrology, we work with polarities. So the polarity of Scorpio is Taurus, and they work with values. Scorpio is like all the things we share. And Taurus is all the things that I need to take care of myself. It's self-reliance. Now, in order to integrate Scorpio, you have to go to the other side, to Taurus, and become self-reliant. So part of this self-reliancy, self-responsibility is what really going to make this generation kind of flourish. And when they understand that they're part of the souls that they came here to not only shake the walls, but bring them down and dissolve them. And also there should be forgiveness in here. It's not about blaming horrible things. Yes, they are, but we are part of this, of the progress of understanding what can they do better. So it's, I mean, I like, on Twitter, some people go like, this is wrong, this is wrong. I've been guilty of that. This is wrong. And now I'm more like, okay, even if it's wrong, what can I bring forth that I'm showing that is a little bit different? So I think that the millennial gets there into, okay, this is wrong. I'm going to confront it. What is it that I'm bringing forth? Now, we have right now the kids, no longer kids, that are 25 years old, 24, but I have a lot of friends that age, actually connect so well with them. They're the Gen Zs. They're made out of a different thing. They're built out so differently. And I actually enjoy very much because they have Pluto in Virgo. I'm sorry, Pluto in Sagittarius. So there's of truth, but they're going to question every single truth there is. So you have a lot of people who are extremely sarcastic. They don't trust anything. They're just like doing their own thing. And I love observing them as a Pluto in Virgo. That's a 90 degrees for me. So it's creating me attention. So instead of me feeling triggered by them, I actually using that trigger to learn more about how to get out of my own predicament. So I think that some generations work so well together because some generations support the other generation to grow. And you only have pain. I'm sorry, guys, that's the way it is. I didn't invent this thing, but it's also when you look at cards, when you're looking at support systems and resistance, there's always a point of break. And it's usually something that is like creating a tension that makes it go up or down. And that's what life.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is painful. It is a painful reality. Wouldn't it be so nice if we could just sit and grow and just like breeze through life and grow? But it would be so boring, Yeah,
it will be. And releasing, this morning I had a very strong meditation because I'm releasing the 16, everybody's releasing the 16 years. And for me, 16 years is like New York time, my marriage. I don't think it was failed, but it was like I could no longer sustain that kind of relationship. Oh my God, the amount of friends that I don't have anymore from New York. Every single person that I knew is no longer part of my life. So I'm also, instead of being angry, I was angry at one point because basically my anger comes like this. It's like, let's say they were good friends for a long time and I see you changing views that are mine. I will not cancel you. I will call you or say, hey, let's have a talk and ask you how you are. And try to not to judge you, but be more interested in like, is there something? And then I will say, I don't agree really what it is, but it's very interesting what you're saying. I wonder what made you do that. Like I really am interested in people and creating dialogue. But what I felt, and it's very sad, is and it happened to me 2 days ago. I just posted on Instagram. I was a little bit heartbroken. Very good friend of mine, like very good. Her birthday was 2 days ago. And I tried to look her. Sometimes I WhatsApp, sometimes try to look her on Instagram and Facebook, and I was blocked.
Wow.
I know why? Because I mean, like many of the leftists, they're completely angry at me because I'm a Trumpist. They don't understand really what I'm doing. Bitcoin, you're crazy. And I've been last year and a half, I've been just saying stuff and putting stuff and giving links so people get educated. I have had many people from the left having the time, and I appreciate each one of you to say, I don't understand what you're saying. Can you explain? And I usually go, there's this book, we can have chat one-on-one. I can teach you. I actually do study groups on Bitcoin. Like that's why I say if I find sincerity, I open my heart.
Yeah.
No judgment. But unfortunately, there's so much judgment. So I have been kind of purging the fact that this part of my life is finished, and also making sure that I'm not responding with anger, saying like, well, go it, go to hell. Like that's a very typical thing you do when you're 7. Now you don't want to play with me, go to hell. So I don't want to do that, because I want to acknowledge and I want to accept the fact that there is a little bit of sadness. There is a kind of mourning from my past lives. Also that I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them or that situation. And so I'm coming to terms, and it's funny because I've been having a pain in my back, almost like on my butt, like at the lower thing, and saying, what is this pain telling me? And in meditation this morning says, you really have to be graceful about the way you're going to let go. Because if you carry that anger, you're going to carry it physically. And I'm not ever ill. I don't go to doctors. Right? So I started crying before this happened. After like when you text me, I was like, this is perfect. I need to purge. And I just like, okay, I get it. And I'm going to release this, because this is something that my body's telling me that I cannot hold on to that. That is finished. Part of my life is finished. And it makes sense that yesterday was my United States birthday. So I'm ready. Whatever it is, I'm ready. So yeah.
I've really felt that this eclipse as well. Like it's been a really powerful one. I mean, look, even looking at all the aspects around it, it's so transformative. But I mean, this has been a purging time, and it's not always comfortable to purge, but it's so transformative on the other side. And the thing is, I find with the deeper I go in astrology, the longer I've studied it, for many years now, but some people fear like an eclipse or, oh, Mercury retrograde's coming and what have you. Whereas I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, bring it on, purge away, clear the way. And, even if it's uncomfortable, it really just is so phenomenal if you can lean into that and kind of trust the process, really.
And then understanding the language. For me, astrology is a language. Human design are languages. They're ancestral paradigms, but they're also based on numbers. Astrology is a language of numbers that uses mythology in order to be interpreted. Now, you need to understand about the numbers and the harmonics. So how these numbers that are basically the numbers of the stars around the sky from the moment you're born. And this is a fixed moment, but doesn't mean that the sky is fixed. It means that you have a floor plan of your potential journey in this earth, and then you do those numbers, and then you start finding the relationship between them. So sometimes they're together, so that the energy of that planet is going to be enhanced depending where it lands, what sign. But at times they create these aspects that are like when they're like harmonic 120 or 60 degrees, they're actually supporting each other. But sometimes we have challenges, which I really like challenges in life, because again, this is the moments where actually I am confronted with a crisis and I have to make a decision. And so when you have squares, or you have unconjuncts, or you have opposition, you are put in a situation where you actually have to create an action and say, I better do this or that. So when you know the symbology, you actually could, you don't take it personal. You go, oh, I have a toolbox. Oh, I have choices. See, like if you ask what freedom is for me, which is the thing that I value the most, and that's the reason why I'm a Bitcoiner, because it gives me everything that I need in order to sustain my freedom. Freedom for me is to be able to have choices. If I am put in a situation where they say, this is the last thing, if you don't buy this, you're not going to make it, I'll go, you know what, that's not a good choice for me. But
right.
And people go, are you crazy? And I go, no, I was left with no choice. So I'm not going to choose out of their fear. And it happens a lot. People say, like, if you don't decide today, it's going to be $100. Well, let it be. I don't care. Maybe it's not for me, because I need time to make decisions in my life. And I'm honor that time for myself. So I think it's important. So having the possibility of understanding the language of the archetypes, and it's all through mythology. It's not that we're going to enact the same thing that happened to Chiron or the same thing. It's like that information that is condensed in energy, like somewhere in the Akashic records is there. It's accessible for us. Like if it was a book that you bring down and you open a page and it speaks to you. So astrology you every day. If you see an eclipse, and as you say, that it happens a lot of people, eclipse or Mercury retrograde, it's like what does it really mean in relationship to where I am right now and in relationship to my chart? Because, for instance, looking right now, Pluto being at 29 degrees of Capricorn, everybody has that 29 degrees somewhere. In my case, it's in my 12th house. So I know that since 2010, more or less, give or take, I've been having Pluto in my 12th house. So for me, it's been a very deep transformation of the way I relate to my unconscious. I brought to life and transformation through everything there. But I also have to look where my natal Pluto is to see how that is. So my natal Pluto is in Virgo, 11 degrees, 8th house. So I say, okay, this is affecting me in a way. Like the question is with this perch and this thing is like, Monica, what else do you need to go deeper? 8th house, Scorpio. That you have to be really discerning, Virgo, because this opportunity of the boss saying that the bar is closing at 12, this is the last call of my life for these things. Make sure that I spend a little bit of time looking at those things and then discerning what is needed, and then I can move forward. So then I'm complementing my Pluto transit with my personal. And then I also, other planets that I have together, I have Uranus too. So I'm part of that generation in the mid-60s that is here to revolutionize the way things are done in society. So I carry that torch, and this is something I wanted to talk to you about it. And I haven't seen your chart, but I bet that you have certain things either in the 11th house, Aquarius, or Uranus is very prominent in your chart by transit or something, because I'm trying to make a little bit of a thesis that every Bitcoiner or every person that falls very naturally into Bitcoin has an Aquarian trait, because Aquarius is Bitcoin is a very Aquarian chart.
Yeah. Well, I don't actually have any Aquarius placements in my chart, which I find really kind of bizarre because I feel so aligned to Aquarian energy.
Yeah, but do you have anything in the 11th house?
Let me just bring up.
Or do you have any aspect to your Uranus? Because, you can read it in many different ways.
Neptune in the 11th house and Mercury, Lilith.
Okay, that's good. And then Uranus, it's in Scorpio.
Oh, Uranus actually in Sagittarius.
At the beginning. And what kind of aspect is doing to what? Like, do you have a connection to other? But that of Neptune already there, and Mercury and Black Moon Lilith is like, it's a strong indication that you have this energy about Aquarius. So, but for instance, the connection, I haven't seen your chart, so I don't know the other things, but having Neptune there means that let's say that Aquarius has a lot to do with long-term memory and also trauma, generational trauma. So in a way, your spiritual side is going to bring some awareness to this thing that is not happening altogether. And then Mercury, you're talking about it, but Black Moon Lilith has a lot to do with the shadows people are projecting into that. So I will say, so yours is in Sagittarius, right? End of Sagittarius?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have all of that. So then your Uranus is in the 10th house or 11?
10, hold on.
Yeah, I should have looked at your chart before.
Uranus, yeah, 10th house.
Yeah. So interesting, because for instance, Uranus in the 10th house means that there's something about wanting to disrupt the collective and corrupted stuff. So that's totally
I feel like I've been doing that my whole life.
Yeah. And then it comes in kind of, it says, okay, we don't have to kill everybody. We can actually forgive this and bring a little bit more spirituality to it. And we can actually talk about it in a way, but still looking for something, because Sagittarius is just this pilgrim. So in a way, you're bringing forth that knowledge into, okay, this is not working, but we don't have to kill each other because of it, but I'm bringing another perspective. So it happens. So, it's not that people have to be born in February and be Aquarius. It's like, see how that energy it's playing. Also, if you're like I'm an Aquarius rising. That's where my thing is. And my South Node is in the 11th house. And my Uranus is in the 7th house. So there's everything that is relational with me how I relate to myself every day, every moment, how I relate to the groups or how people connect with me, and how I relate to every single thing in my life is from the perspective of like me wanting to break free. Therefore, I say I want to be free, but also bring some awareness in my life and in the life of others that I touch, that freedom is something you have to go for. You have to eat freedom. Freedom is not given to you. There's no such a thing as people being liberated. There's no second coming of Christ. The second coming of Christ is you become you based, accountable, and hopefully a Bitcoiner. That's it.
And like Christed consciousness, I think comes into that there more than the physicality.
Absolutely. And then it's like, it's interesting. In the Gospel of John, I did a whole project with that for the Vatican. It is said that you get incarnated, you come in flesh, and then you actually live this life. So we tend to because we have a very bipolar way of being and trying to understand. We don't understand. We have to do the synthesis or integration. So there's a tendency to be either too spiritual and I don't care about my finances, or you are only hoarding finances because you're afraid of not having, and then you forget to sustain your spirit. But if people understand that without spirit, there's no body, and without body, there's no spirit, then all you have to do is just integrate. And everybody has a different level. We don't have to be in the middle, but the awareness that you're working certain things, because some people are born with like more material than others. Some people are born with more spiritual than others. And then it's the scope of each one of them to find their middle way, like what the Buddha said. The middle way is not in the middle. The middle way is like synthesize the Trinity, integrate the Trinity. And the Trinity is neither nor. It's what emerges in that practice of having, a thesis or antithesis. It's like, and it's not the same for everybody, because every moment of your life, you're integrating A and B or whatever the polarity. So that's the alpha and the omega. So, and it's not fixed. And this is why I think a lot of people suffer, that you're going to one day find happiness with money or find happiness with the husband. You don't find like that. This is ongoing. And also astrology keeps on changing. So sometimes you have to do the readings about what's going to happen. Like I have clients that I've done the thing and then they go, this year I need to have a solar return. I go, let's look at your progress chart and see where you're at right now. And from the last time we spoke, what's new? And so we have these conversations that are so incredible, because we can both dig into like psychological frameworks that been conditioning, and when they do the work, they actually come and say, oh, how wrong I was with this, but now I open up to that. So you see the evolution happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's also the shift that's happened in the expression of astrology as well, because I lived in India for 6 years, and in India, the way people relate to astrology, it's almost very, very fixed. And it's like, this is good in your chart, this is bad in your chart, this is always going to be bad for you, and what have you. Whereas I kind of like try to open people up to, okay, so this may be a challenging area of your chart, but actually like you're here to sort of, it will probably be your strongest point of growth, so it's like, be grateful for that. It's not just a black area on your chart. It's like,
that happen in a way, because you see these practices are given down a lineage. So somewhere down that lineage, somebody kind of forgot to say that this is a duality and we have to look at the two aspects in order to integrate. And then they start going like good, bad. And then if you don't have the knowledge of like, it could be good or bad. I always say that for every challenge is an opportunity. So I actually, my podcast is called, where I write, it's called I'm an Optimist, because I always see the bright side of things. That doesn't mean that when things are not working, I go, yay. I go, all right, maybe this is not for me. And then I'm going to wait or try to see how I can approach this from a place where I can be more open, as opposed to, no. I used to be more radical. I have a lot of fixed signs in my chart. I'm a Taurus with the moon in Scorpio, Aquarius rising. It's my way or the highway. And I suffer that. And so human design has
Our own evolution. Yeah, let's chat about human design quickly because human design has been such a gift to my life. Like it's been, and I do encourage people to to have a look at their human design charts because when I found human design, it was a moment of, oh, that's why I'm meant to be like that, you know? But you always have these moments, like as you're going through life, you're like, oh, why am I like this? And when you look at your human design chart, you go, that's why, you know, so that's fantastic. And can we talk a little bit about the new paradigm in human design? Are you interested in that as well?
Absolutely. So I found like I had been always doing astrology all my life because I mean, I have long stories about how I got into that. But when I started being in a very big crisis, 2017, after I leave my marriage, I realized that I have no self-esteem because I had put everything into my relationship because I tend to have codependency issues that I didn't know I had
We
at the
all
time. Sorry?
we all do that. We all do
Yeah.
that.
So, but then I became aware, and then I found this fabulous astrologer, Simon Foster, online, and he did a reading for me. And it was actually a few days before the very big eclipse of August 17th, where like was a big one. And I remember he also says, I'm going to read you human design. And it was like he was speaking to me like in alien, because I know a lot about many practices like that. I've been mystical all my. But he says to me, oh, you're a manifestor. And I was like, what? And then he says, you're a role model. I'm going, what? And then he says, emotion. I go, and then he kept on going, and I go like, stop, 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 stop. Let me take a screenshot. And then I was like, oh my God, because everything he was saying, I was like, oh, it makes so much sense because I kind of knew about my astrology because I've been doing charts since forever and I had astrologists before. But this was like that. So I remember we're about to finish the session and I said, hey, can I hire you? And then I go, we start Saturday, I pay you, whatever. Like, I just wanted his knowledge and I said, I wanted. So he said, I'm going to teach you evolutionary astrology. And slowly we started pondering to human design. I did find other teachers. And so it's been 7 years I've been doing my design, observation and correlation, because I think that the failure of the big whole paradigm of human design is people want to memorize the meaning of things, but they don't embody it. And this happens with many practices. So, and how do you embody that? Well, you have to observe yourself in relationship to yourself and others. So you have to have this kind of critical way of seeing yourself from the outside and understanding how the energy falls in the body, because we have very different energy systems. Some people we have all these centers. Say the human design is is 4 different ancestral paradigms that are based on the date of birth. So you have the astrology, and then we're going to have like a situation where these planets are going to be in what is called the 64 hexagrams of the I Ching. I did study with a Taoist teacher for 12 years, so I knew about the I Ching way before human design. I was already an astrologer before human design. I had studied the Vedas before human design. And the Kabbalah also, I did several years. So when I saw, this what happened to me, I saw human design and I said, oh my God, this is perfect because this is actually how I'm going to put everything together. So what happens with this is like, again, like we're talking about the generations before with Pluto. In human design, you have certain types of people with certain kind of energy and a certain kind of strategy in certain levels. So for instance, I spoke about being 6'2". I'm at that level right now, and it's not hierarchy. It's just I'm at the level where I am more of a person that spends a lot of time with myself in the second line, and I have 7 second lines. And then I also have 10 sixth lines. So I'm more like the person that likes to observe reality and kind of engage with the reality if I'm called to be there. If not, I just don't give. I'm aloof. So understand my level of where I am. The people who are like 1-3s or 2-4s, they're more related to their own like survival and what they're doing here. The 5-1s are people who are there like gurus speaking about them. So if you understand that you have different levels of expanding your consciousness in this life, you're not going to go against the will. Like I know a lot of 5-3s, and I love them because they're like, oh my God, I always learn through trial and error. I go, yes, you have a third line, and third line is all about materiality, trying. So in the paradigm, and this was channeled by a man, I forgot his real name, Robert something, but yeah, but he had a real name, but then he changed it, Ra, and he was any visa, whatever, he received downloads. I receive a lot of downloads. So he got all this knowledge And then he tried to make sense the rest of his life. He died quite young. He was 51 years old when he died, but he tried to make sense of how to get all this basically ancient technology, because that technology is a tool that he could actually give to humanity, almost like the fire of Prometheus, to see, okay, what are you going to do with that? So he tried in many different ways, and I think that at the very end, he died too young for me, because at the very end of his life, he was trying to really decipher the complexity of it. At the beginning, he was kind of going here and there. A lot of people don't like him because he's a manifestor. He's like that, but the way I have learned human design truly is because I created the study groups. So I facilitate study groups, and I'm actually one of the lot. I'm not teaching, but I facilitate it. So I bring the material, we go through it, and we do a lot of observation correlation. So I have been able to go deep into the material, not because Ra says, it's because I'm looking at myself in comparison. And then the people that I facilitate are also doing the work. So we're growing together in this thing. And it stopped being this thing of being afraid of 2027. That because that's where like the paradigm.
I'm excited for 2027.
I received some information, because in meditation I receive, it's like, okay, so I understand. Okay, so let's say that why things are going to change, and just beyond human design, like astrologically, astrology is a validator. If you go back to the Greeks, we have numbers, we have arithmetic, we have geometry, which is like the study of numbers in space. Then we have harmonics, which is the study of time. And then we have astronomy, or now astrology, that is the validator of all these first three. What do you mean by validator? It means that, the sun comes back every day, the moon every 28 days, Mercury every 88, and so on and so forth. So we always have the planets to validate the relationship between these figures that are happening. So when you look at the times in like you zoom out, and you see we're living it through this Aquarian time or something like that, and you see that there's certain planets that are validating themselves every 30 years, like Saturn, or every 84, like Uranus, or every 20 years, Saturn and Jupiter. You start seeing that life in itself is full of these cycles, and you are part of that. So when you start seeing your relationship within those cycles, then you understand probably your purpose a little bit more, because you're going with the wavelength of what you came with, what I was explaining. You're born with Pluto in here and Uranus in there. That's going to give you some information that you need in your life actually to keep on deciphering. So when you look at these changes, you're going to see that next year, and we're going to start right now, Pluto right now is going to enter into Aquarius for 20 years. And this happens every 16 to 20 years. So already we're going to feel the shift. And every time that Pluto has change of signs, there's always something big happening. Yes. Neptune is at 29, right now it's 28 degrees of Neptune. Neptune is at the very end of the zodiac. This happens every 165 years. The last time that Neptune was in this position, it was the Civil War of America. Yeah. Uranus, 84 years. If people are aware of the fourth turning, this is what the fourth turning is. It's these 4 decades that are actually completing a whole space of reality. You see, when Uranus was, and has a lot to do with human design, when Uranus was first spotted in the sky, the whole astrology changed, because the last planet that the eye could see naked to the eye was Saturn. So Saturn defined reality. When Uranus was discovered in 1784, I think, or 81, I always confused, I think it's 84, the reality and consciousness of human being expanded. And so the same with Neptune, which was around the time that Civil War was around that time. Then Pluto was with between the first World War and the second, and a little bit more like in the 20s. So every time that we have a new discovery that we can see something, we have more consciousness that is opening up. So what is happening is like the planets that are beyond Saturn, which is Saturn, Chiron, Uranus, and Chiron is an asteroid, but Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto are all going to change signs next year. But they're going to change, like they go a little bit inside of the water, then they come back because they forgot something, and then they go like that. By February 2026, when Saturn and Neptune that are together every 36 years, they're going to be at 0 degrees. 0 degrees is like the world point. This is where a lot, like the whole world's going to be affected by this 0 degrees, the beginning of the cycle.
Yeah.
So you already know that you're based, that you're independent, that you know who you are, you're not part of the herd, you're not complying with stupidity and stuff. When you get to the 0 point, you know exactly what to do. You're not going to wait anybody to tell you. By the way, you are already working on it since now. You already been working on it. You're just going to be validated by the astrology that what you started starting to make sense, because now we're starting new things and we don't know what's going to go, but we're doing it anyway. We're kind of blind because we're in the fog right now. Everything is like we're rowing and there's a big fog. We don't know where the shore is, but we can kind of hear the birds, but we don't know the birds. Like there's a lot of confusion right now, which is always what happens before the dawn. There's always darkness and there's confusion and chaos. So when Pluto going to go to Aquarius, it's going to be 20 years. Uranus is going to get into Gemini. That's going to change a lot how technology is spread. So AI, we haven't seen really what AI is capable of. And I'm not against AI. I'm actually a super, and I write about it in the book because I think that what AI has told me of these years that I've been investigating is that the most powerful we have is not AI, but ourselves. We're the best machine ever created. So it brings me back the potential that I have as program myself to be a better self than rather allow the program to be told to me by a prompt in the machine. So this super empowerment is when it comes. Then the next one is Neptune is going to go to Aries. I said in Saturn as well. So we're going to have, and then eventually Chiron is going to go to Taurus. So we're going to have the whole energy of the universe starting in new energy, and the energy is propelling towards transformation, towards innovation, Aquarius, towards curiosity, Uranus, that is also Aquarius, like the idea of new technologies, new ways of expressing ourselves, into starting new. But what are you going to study? Start new. I'm going to start something that is actually individual, that is going to benefit to humanity. So in a way, is the real coming of Christ as its empowerment of the self. Now, he said 2027, because by then you have all that. Now, I've been receiving information that actually the film is going to be, there's an eclipse that is on end of January 2028 that is going to touch the chart of the United States.
Right.
It touches the United States, and this is where Bitcoin also plays. Bitcoin has the North Node in Aquarius, 9 degrees. The chart of the United States has the South Node in Aquarius at 6, almost 7 degrees. Pluto is going to meet there, but I'm going to do something even more incredible because I really believe that you connect to the energies, and that's why I get the information. My ascendant, it's exactly that degree, 650 something Aquarius. And this came to me in a meditation that says, look at this date. And I looked at it and I went like, whoop. And I said, oh, so I'm connected to the energy of this country. 911, which I spoke about it, I have in my chart, in the chart of 911, we're connected by the same degree of the nodal axis. Exactly. I was having a second nodal return.
Wow.
And this I told to also Robert, I mean, this is side, but his nodal return last year was exactly the day that Jupiter was there with my Jupiter. There's something that happens when you meet certain things that open up other paradigms. So if you're open, you can read these things. Not like woo-woo, but language.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's a language of energy. It's a language of energy. And if people think of it as a language, it's almost like a connector, like a circuit board also. And so you need to have those circuits connected and to be able to receive that electricity, right? And to be able to have that flowing. So that's phenomenal. And yeah, tell us a little bit about your book and what we can expect to see in there. What you're touching on right there, I think, was a story about 9/11, and you were in the towers, right? And you had did you have an art studio in the tower?
It was a problem, sometimes, no, not all, most of the times in New York City, because real estate over there is very important. most of the times when real estaters want to move people to buy into like kind of like difficult areas, they actually give space free to the artist because the artist doesn't care about where they are. They care about free space.
Right.
You know, I understood it from a long time. I actually lived under the Manhattan Bridge for a long time in a loft that it had the best view, but it was like my mom came and she cried. She says, "What did I do wrong?" And I was like, "No, mom, everything is." She was like, "This place is horrible." And I was like, "You're not living here. I am." She tried to bribe me into getting a real apartment. I'm like, why are you taking away my freedom? You know, like I'm paying very little rent. It was almost like a squat kind of situation, but I did have to pay rent. But it was that the owner of that land had not changed the code to residential. So we're still industrial and we were illegally living there. So every now and then the fire department will come and we will have to pretend that we don't live there. So in New York, I live in a lot of those lofts because it was more like the thing you do a little bit to be reactive. But I forgot why I was telling this story about I went off the charts.
The World Trade Center, 9/11.
So at that time, I'm still working from my home, and then I will apply as an artist to different art residencies. Where art residencies usually is like a grant that they give you for a period of time to have free studios. Because as an artist, again, you want free studios and you want free food, but then you realize that's socialism, so you don't ask so much for the free food, but the free studios is still good. And so they program, and it was you apply, and there's a jury and everything. You get selected to be in a place in the World Trade Center, 92nd floor. Actually, it was the 91st floor of the Tower 1. That's what I won. And I just wanted to go there because I said, okay, I'll go. And that summer, we're about to get in, and they call us and they say, we have to kind of move the date to 1 week because Larry Silverstein, which just took over the building, he had done the lease. He wants to use that space that you have. We have the space that it was facing Central Park and the Empire State. This was downtown, but it was north. This is where the plane came in, right? And he wants that office for himself. It's the best view. So you guys are going to be relocated on the floor above, and it's going to be a corner. It's not going to be so incredible. You still have views, but it's not the same. And the interesting thing is that residency was called World Views because it was the views that, you know, they were inciting people to go over there and do the stuff. So I remember going like, this guy Silverstein, that's like bad luck. Like I didn't like it. But anyway, in a way it was good because, I mean, pretty much everybody was on that side of the building at that height didn't survive because it's where the first plane came in. So I was giving that residency and I was going there every day, more or less, to film. I wanted to film from above, very high. I wanted to film. I was looking for clouds for a project. Not a single day rained, single, whole summer, every day, camera. I'm desperate. I'm going there and I'm like, I'm praying for rain, nothing. Beautiful summer. The day before it was like a hurricane kind of rain. So I was there, I was filming, and then I left because of a pack of cigarettes because I didn't have enough cigarettes. So I ended up leaving. So yes, I took the tape with me. And I think that after that day, I realized how close I had been to a major catastrophe in my life. And that's when I actually made amends and I said, okay, I didn't do it the day after. I said, I need to put my life in order. So we're going to have to stop doing all kinds of substances because I was like, I didn't eat. I was just like high on whatever or drinking a lot. Like I was an artist, 30 something years old, like doing my thing. So I made a commitment to myself. In the next year, I'm going to get completely clean. There was no addiction there, but it was more like, just like do so. But I started. I actually received some information that I started to really needed to clean my aura in many ways. And that's when I found a teacher and I went to study with a Taoist teacher. And so I began my spiritual practice then. I was like, okay, because I saw in my astrology that the plane basically passed me through here.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, so if I'm still alive, there must be a purpose for my life. So that's what I did. I did find a lot of purpose from that day because the next nodal return happens the week of the pandemic. So I knew that I was ready to go to, and that's why I asked, what should I do? And they told me, go here. So I always ask the gods or my consciousness to guide me, and I do follow that. So that's
Right.
the story. This, and I don't think I have this story in my book, but my book is, it's like a recollection of insights that I've had in the last years. So I write, and sometimes I record, and then it's transcribed into how I observe and correlate different events that I'm watching, because I'm a great observer, but at the same time, I also see myself from the outside and having conversations about myself. So I have these relational values that are very important. So my book is really my path of individuation, like all the steps that I've done. And it's not a manual, and it's not written in linear time. It's written in kind of different themes, but then you will see the date. You'll see it's almost like a diary, like, okay, here, there. I use the language of astrology in many places, but not like disruptive. So you can skip that part if you don't want. But then at the very end, there's a second part of the book in the book where I'm going to have the archetypes with different like keywords. So if you really want to get deeper, you can actually start connecting to your own, making your own sentences. And it's very playful that way. I also speak a little bit about human design, but not too much, because I didn't want to make it heavy for everybody. Like, I didn't want to speak, this is about this. Obviously, one thing that happened when I started writing the book is like I started writing about Bitcoin without knowing that I was writing about Bitcoin. So there is a part where I do talk about Austrian, I mean, what I talk about, what it's been valuable for me in this journey of studying Austrian economics, Bitcoin, becoming a Bitcoiner, being very aware of the ecology of Bitcoin, doing all the stuff that I've been doing. It's like I bring this awareness to the writing. So in a ways, I'm just inspiring people that they can follow their own thing and do their thing, write their book, make their drawing, do their Bitcoin or not. I mean, it doesn't matter. So that's the story. And I decided, because I'm an artist, I only, in one chapter, I speak about my art practice, because I didn't want to make it about art. It's not a book about, like, you're going to find about my art in different places, but it is written as an art book. Like, it's the same energy that I put into making an art piece that is always 2 years, 3 years. So you're going to see the embodiment of how would an artwork be in the form of a book. And so it has illustrations. Noted that all the illustrations I have vectorized from different things that I like. Kind of like, I don't care about copyrights, because these are like ancient drawings, but I'm actually making them as vectors so I can illustrate a little bit the book. I didn't want to put artwork there. I didn't want to put pictures. I just wanted people to have like and it's small, like I wanted a pocket book. So you basically open up wherever and you have 2 pages at least to read a little bit. I don't know if you know the author, Jorge Luis Borges from Argentina. Yeah. Borges is one of my influences, and also Italo Calvino. And actually, I've been very inspired by both. And so they always wrote little stories, little essays, little blips. And so in New York, when I used to take the subway, I would take all the Borges books with me, and it will take me to another place. So it's a little bit like I'm taking you to this thing. And it's very inquisitive. So I do ask you questions. Like I do blah, blah, blah. And then I say, what about you? So there's a space at the end where you can actually, like notebook, you can write. And the last bit of the book, which actually I have to say, I didn't co-write this, but I wouldn't really be able to do this without Mari Budlong. She's a co-editor and co-producer. She was the one who kind of invited me to the idea that probably I could do a book, but I said, I'll do it if you are on board, because I wouldn't know how to. So she's the one who found the thread about individuation. She says it's very powerful what you're saying. She liked the fact that I'm asking questions. So she said, I think this is an important part of the book, the way you speak to like I make the reader present in the moment. I'm acknowledging that the person is there. And then, so the last part of the book is a few interviews that I had with people in the last 6 months, is that they were either mentors or I've been mentoring them or facilitating. And we just took the recordings, and she edited out like little blips at the very end. So this is a part of the book, because the first part is the relationship with Monika. And there's ends with Monika seeing the world. So I talk about Bitcoin economy, and then I tell a whole story. It's not a story, but I talk about the banking system from Dante's point of view. Right, so it's looking at the metaphors, but looking also the reality of time. And so it's just inviting other ways of understanding, for instance, Bitcoin or economy or the time cycles. And then the last part, the second part that I have, like this playful thing where you're going to see the archetypes and you're going to go like, what is this? And there's no instruction. I mean, you figure it out. You go, oh, she went crazy here. Yeah, whatever. But it's up to the person to decide. And the third one is this conversation. So I finished the book with me in relationship to other people who are close to me in a way that they have somehow been part of my path. And I mean, I have more that I didn't interview, but that's what it is. So it's, I talk about astrology, human design, facilitator mentorship, and creativity. So that, yeah, that's it. And so it's going to be, I got the first, this is like the first set that came yesterday where it's completely approved by me. So I'm going to be, there's few revisions that I have to do, very tiny, about some drawings. It's like, okay, maybe this one should be, but it's me being perfectionist. And so it's going to be able to be shipped by like in 10 days or something like that. So
Fantastic, fantastic. And where can people order the book?
well, I'm gonna give you the link. So I have a page that's called Studio Venice, yes, because I'm a polymath, so I have a lot of stuff. In that place you can find my artwork. So you can find like the commissions that I do for airports, police stations, and stuff like that. That's fun to see. Also the scale, like I work very big. And I work with other people, fabricators. So I have people in Germany doing glass and mosaic, or I do things with animations. Like I have a very big piece right now at the Grand Central Station in New York that is like 5 super big screens in LEDs. And I have a whole animation that is an image of a fake city that looks New York, but it's actually very much inspired by praxeology and human action from Western economics, and saying like, civilization can actually become something incredible if we all contributed voluntarily without any violence. This is really the core of the Austrian school. So I'm speaking about Bitcoin and without speaking about it, but I'm actually contributing that way. And then you also have a page where you see my study groups that I offer. That's more intimate little pieces that I offer sometimes. My readings, I do chart readings. And then other expressive things like writing on my Substack or my book. So everything is just there. It's very simple, and it's called Studio Venice Ideas because I don't know how many ideas I have a day that I cannot just tap into. It's like they're endless. So I just have to be very like, okay, this idea can make it to the next step. The other guy, and I call them guys. Like, guys, no, not an idea more. I can't deal with you guys. It's like, wait.
That's such a great way to look at it. And you're on social media. Where are the best places to connect with you on social media?
Okay, so Instagram, I've been trying to leave Instagram for like forever, but there's something visual about Instagram that I cannot like live without because Twitter won't give me that, and even Nostr, like but I'm on everything. I'm on Nostr, I'm on X, Bravo Monika with a K, and then Instagram is Monicaco, so it's Monica with a K and the SEO like Colombia. I don't do Facebook because I call Facebook. I mean, I still have it open, but I call it the geriatric ward. Like that's where the very old people are like being fed and being told what to do. These people over there. Sometimes I just go over there and go like, wake up, people. So you're still going to vote for Kamala? Do you want me to do this? I mean, and people, I mean, I'm really rude with people over there because the big sleepers are in Facebook. So
That's
yeah.
phenomenal. That's phenomenal. I will put all of those links in the description box as well so people can find you and get a copy of your book. I can't wait to read it. It's going to be phenomenal. And I'm so congratulations. It's really giving birth to something. So it's incredible. So thank you so much for joining me. Is there anything that we haven't covered that you really have on your heart to share just as a closing remark?
Yeah, I want to say, first of all, thank you for giving me this platform to speak and for, giving me the light so I can show up. But most important thing that I want to say to people is like, even though things seem to be awkward, awful, jarring, like not really happening, if you really trust your inner light and you will find ways to ask for that in your own personal relationship to yourself, there's always a way out, not to escape from, but actually to liberate yourself from, because there's a very different thing about like escaping and acknowledging that liberation is a way of self-empowerment. You see, like when you still have chains, you're still a prisoner. So it's not about breaking the chains, but actually like taking the step to say, oh, is freedom something that I can actually have? Yes, but you have to do something about it. So my message is like, it all depends on you and it all lies in your heart. So are you true enough to yourself to move a couple of steps forward? And if you are and you're afraid, because I totally get it, I was afraid at one point, find the right person to trust that you can do it. So there's a lot of even free stuff in the internet to do trauma work, to do, like, if you actually are honest with your predicament and you're honest to yourself, someone or something is going to appear in your life and you will never imagine, because you will think it's a miracle, but it's actually the miracle of your life. That's what I have to say. So I'm an optimist.
That's so beautiful. So beautiful. Thank you so much, Monika. Really appreciate it. Peace, love, and Bitcoin.
Yay! Take care. Bye-bye.